The tree of life is probably the most powerful universal symbol in the world. Certainly, it shows up literally in virtually every culture of the world. And we're just going to see a few examples here. This is the Sumerian, perhaps the original tree of life. And we're actually looking at a physical image of a carving of the original physical tree. So there are a few things I want you to notice about it. First, it appears to be a vine-like plant, and this becomes very important because it's connected to things that some of the great avatars and masters have said, including Osiris, including Jesus. I am the true vine. He's literally referring to himself as an aspect of the tree of life. If you can notice, the top of it appears to have almost like palm leaves, and there's 7 of them. 7 is a very mystical number, and as we're going to discover, is very much connected with the path of mysticism and some of the codes and keys for creation itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the leaves always appear to have 7. And all of these are, let us say, holographic expressions of divine principles that permeate the universe. And of course, the Anunnaki gods who brought us the knowledge of the tree of life knew this and understood it. This is an image of the flower of life. Now, most of us know the flower of life as, a circle with 6 circles around it, like the 7 days of creation. That is certainly one of the major templates of sacred geometry and creation itself, but this is the original flower. So we are literally looking at the earliest depictions. Here's the flower down here at the bottom. Many times there's 12 petals, but sometimes there's more than 12. It's not always 12. These are sacred numbers, as we will discover. Now, this is the Norse version, and this is the tree of life that's called Yggdrasil in the Norse tradition, and it was believed that it connects all the worlds and all the planes together. In Norse mythology or cosmology, as the case may be, it was believed that there were 3 worlds or 3 realms above, 3 below, and 3 in the middle. Earth sits in the middle as a planet or a realm called Midgard or Middle Earth. And this is probably one of the places that Tolkien, because he was very much a student of cosmology and mythology and history and all of that, got it. And that's because Earth literally is the point in the middle that has access to all of these various planes. And we're going to just talk about how they're connected by this rainbow bridge and what the rainbow bridge might actually be. So this is the Norse tree. Here's the Celtic tree. I love the Celtic. The Celtic is very beautiful because, of course, if you think about it, is creating the infinity symbol, isn't it? As above, so below. Are these the branches or is this the roots? Are these the branches or is this the roots? And this is one of the conversations that is had within cosmology, is that the roots of the tree actually exist in the higher dimensions and the branches below. But who can say? Because it's the foundation of the world. This is the Scandinavian tree of life, and here we have the great eagle, the father principle sitting at the top, the mother and the daughter, these are the 2 doves. And here coming from the great central sun is the Christ figure. Of course, there have been many figures, Christ figures or solar lords, as we know of them, that have come from the great central sun throughout the thousands of years that our Earth history has been around. Jesus is the one that we know about, or the avatar for our age that came 2,000 years ago. Here are the sages who are pouring down the wisdom from the tree of life to the mortals. And this is the world of mortality. You can see kind of the death figure here. So this is the human world down here. These are the intermediaries or the medicine men or women or sages or saints or priests or priestesses, however you want to look at it, that are bringing this knowledge from the great avatars into the world. So it's the Scandinavian tree. This is the Egyptian. Very interesting. Here's the tree. And they literally look like they're almost like plastic tubes where they're squeezing the juice from the fruit of life down into these little containers, these little vessels, okay? And that's actually what was happening. And you see here with the the skirt that they're wearing, the two serpents that are coming down in the panel in the center. This is all, every bit of this is Hermetic symbology. And we have to be able to decode the Hermetic emblems in order to penetrate what was being said. Now, as time went on, there were certain shorthand symbols that developed that represented the tree of life, but they had multiple levels of meaning. And this was perhaps one of the best known. This is called the Tet, T-E-T, or D-Jet, D-J-E-D. And it is the pillar of regeneration, like the tree of life. When you drink it, it doubles your lifespan. It literally regenerates you. So this also came to be one with the spine of Osiris, who in his age, thousands of years ago, was an incarnation of one of those great avatars or solar lords that came to help humanity. And there are multiple levels of what this means, but let us say in the Kabbalah, the Jewish version, there are four major, let us say, not just dimensions, but separations of the planes. The world of emanation, that would be in the New Age movement, what we would call, what the masters actually call the ocean of love and mercy before there's any form. Then there's the world of creation. This would be what we think of as the sixth and seventh dimension, which is sacred geometry. Then there's the world of formation. That would be what we think of as the fourth and fifth dimension, where there are houses and trees and plants and, structures that we can identify, even though they might be vibrating at a higher frequency than they are here on Earth. And then the third dimension, that's where we are here, which is called the world of action. And that's because this is where we make a difference. When we're up there in the fourth and fifth dimension, we're more aware of our divine essence. And so consequently, we don't usually make errors. In the third dimensional worlds, we are constantly challenged by dark and light, love and fear, unity or division. And so this is the world where we come in with amnesia, with one hand tied behind our backs, and we can't remember who the heck we are. And so this is the playing field upon which our spiritual evolution really takes place, because this is the hardest game to play, is the third dimension. The fourth and fifth are easier because we have more of our memory intact. So anyway, this is one of the symbols that represents not only the spine of Osiris, the pillar of regeneration, but the tree of life. So anytime you see it, it's a shorthand symbol, to Hermetic symbol, to tell us that. And here we see also in the Egyptian that they were very aware that the path of the tree of life, and this is the Kabbalah, that was actually came out of Egypt before it became known as the Jewish Kabbalah or the Hebrew Kabbalah, is a path between two pillars. And we're going to be discussing what these two pillars mean, because you can't get to the path unless you are able to take this middle path, which of course is what Jesus taught, the middle path. Thoth taught it as the ancient path. Buddha taught it as the middle path, the ancient way. And of course, the Ankh, you may or may not realize, also represents the tree of life. Here is the column of the tree itself, and this is what's called the Tau cross. The Tau cross looks like a T, basically, and it has to do with the end of the cycles of time. At the end of every age, we have a graduation day. Who has awakened? Who is ready to graduate from Earth School? On that one nameless day, as they say, when we stand before the two columns, the elder columns of the elder tree, and the male and the female tree, basically, and we wind up taking a look at our book of life. What do we discover? And of course, this becomes the cosmic womb. This is the merger of the male and female together as the Vesica Pisces. It's the eye of God from which everything is born. So the Ankh is a symbol, again, of eternal life, but it's specifically linked to the tree of life with multiple levels of meaning. And here we see Osiris. This is on a a coffin, a funerary coffin. And here are the two pillars being represented by the wings of Horus on either side, the two eyes, the Uchet, and then through the middle we have the middle path. And of course this is the headdress of Osiris. These are the feathers of Ma'at, the feathers of the goddess of truth. So to align with cosmic truth and to activate your halo or solar nimbus and to access these two serpent-like figures, which we're going to be figuring out what those are just a little bit, is to have climbed the tree of life back to heaven. So all this is Hermetics, and Hermetics is super fun. I have to tell you, I teach Hermetics in all my books and all my classes because it's the way that these wise ancient sages encoded all this information. And once you know Hermetics, it's like the veils have been pulled back from your eyes. It's pretty amazing. So here we have it in the Buddhist culture. Many of you may remember that the stories of the great Buddha, Siddhartha, were that he was enlightened beneath a Bodhi tree after many, many trials and tribulations. You know, he was born a rich prince. He gave it all up to become an ascetic. He fasted and prayed. He wound up at one point, you know, almost starving himself to death, and he eventually realized that wasn't going to get him to heaven. And so he went and sat underneath this tree, and he said, I won't move until I become enlightened. And this is, of course, his place of enlightenment. So the Bodhi tree is another one of those great symbols representing the tree of life, the place of enlightenment. Here's the Mayan. Now, this is, of course, a modern rendition of classic concepts found within the Mayan tradition. But here's the tree. Here's this serpent. We're going to see this serpent again and again. And, of course, we have to figure out what the serpent means, don't we? We have to decode it. And here's the rainbow bridge. Here, of course, is the, you know, let us say the firmament of heaven, the dividing line between this dimension and the angelic kingdom, and the house of God up here. And here's the arc of the Milky Way. Yeah, pretty interesting. So here is a less modern tradition showing the Tau cross. And the Tau cross is another one of those Hermetic symbols that's really important. And we have two little crazy figures over here, look like little dwarf people. This one's dark, this one's light. And at the top of the tree is a bird. In their case, it's not an eagle, it's a macaw. But it means the same thing symbolically. At the top of the tree is the divine presence. In order to climb the tree, we must reconcile these two forces. Here's the Olmec. Now we see the column here. And of course, this is really weird art to a lot of us, but you know, we have to be able to decode it. And here we have these two serpentine energies that seem to be twisting up to the Tau cross. Yep, the same Tau cross. So what are those serpents? And up here we have the same kind of thing, some little figure that's made his way up to the top, and he's free. He's gotten free. Here's the Jewish, and this is sort of a classic rendition of, you know, the Adam and Eve story with the tree, with the serpent wrapped around it. And of course, it was sort of demonized by the patriarchy when they wrote or rewrote or assembled the different books and filled them in of the Old Testament, which, by the way, you may not know that that book was not even codified until about 100 BC. About 60% of those books were written between 100 BC and maybe 500 BC when the Jews were released from captivity. And so they were very brilliant in how they made it look like an unbroken history. But in fact, until their Babylonian captivity for 50 years, they didn't even have the story of the flood. They didn't have the story of the Garden of Eden, any of that. And the original story, which was the Atrahasis and the Enumod Elish, in the Sumerian, said that men and women were created together by the gods, by the Elohim, plural. And of course, all that got changed to where it became, you know, one God created man, and then later on created woman, and then therefore she should be subservient. And so all that kind of really got sideswiped the real story, so that we have sort of a twisted version of history that we've inherited in a lot of the Abrahamic religions, including Christianity, Judaism, and of course the Muslim path. Now, there are very wonderful Jewish mystics, and there are mystics in all those paths that maybe have transcended some of those lies, that went on to go into caves in the 800s and 900s and around 1000 AD. And they, you know, Jews were largely being persecuted. And they brought forth information. Some of it, I have no doubt, was passed down through the Egyptian lineage to Moses, and Moses to the wisdom keepers within the Jewish lineage. And they came out with this incredible Kabbalah. And the Kabbalah acts as a ladder to heaven. And there's a lot to say about the Kabbalah, and we're going to return to this subject a little bit later. But what I want you to notice about this is that this is Malkuth. This is actually us down here in the third dimension. You can't even get onto the tree unless you get into Yesod. Yesod is the emotional, it's the astral plane. So unless you can feel your feelings, you don't have a chance to connect with compassion, with empathy, or with love. And in order to climb the tree up the middle path, the way, as Jesus called it, or the middle way, as Buddha called it, we have to reconcile these two sides of the path. And each of these symbols represent archetypal energies. They're called Sephiroth. That's what they're called. And the Sephiroth represent archetypal energies that live in the cosmos. They live in the mind of God. They live inside of you and me. They're archetypes. And so we have to balance the archetypes in order to climb the middle path. And just to give you one example, this is the mental path. This is Mercury. This is like the scholar hermit in the library. This is Venus. She's like the, you know, hubba hubba, gorgeous Beba Rama, eating bonbons and getting a massage on silk cushions. So she's definitely all about beauty and shopping and you know, sensuality, and he's very much about the mind. We have to balance these two in order to climb this middle path. So there's a lot to be said about the Kabbalah, but again, this is a deeper level of the Hebrew teaching, which bravo that it's there. This is the Christian version we inherited, of course, from the Old Testament. And in that version of reality, as we all know, you know, there was a tree of life and a tree of knowledge, and Eve supposedly ate from the tree of knowledge, and knowledge was supposed to be a bad thing, and so she was punished, and Adam was punished, and consequently she's been blamed for all the trials of the world, and women should be punished forever and ever, which of course is, you know, not only is it not true, but that's silly. Knowledge is a good thing. And so, of course, the question becomes, what was that tree and what was that serpent? And we're going to hopefully decode some of that for us in this presentation. Now, just to emphasize how important the tree is, every single Christmas, you may have not really realized this because, you know, we've become accustomed to it. We go out and buy a Christmas tree. What is the tree? Why are we buying this Christmas tree? It's the tree of life. That's what we're putting in our homes. With that, I love the Fraser firs. They smell so yummy. And the balls represent the planets, the planetary spheres. And the bright and shining star at the top actually represents, we can say, that eagle, that God the Father or God the Mother energy, or we can say it represents our ability to climb the tree and to awaken that light within us. So this is how fundamental the tree of life is. And in the ancient world, they used to go out and decorate the trees where they stood. They didn't cut them down and pull them up and put them in their house for 3 weeks and then they died. They decorated them, and they put presents to one another in the trees, which is, I think, a really beautiful custom. Now here's the Freemason tree, and this is an interesting one because here from heaven is the hand of God. Pretty beautiful hand, huh? And so the roots of the tree are said to be in heaven. and that the branches come down, and that the manifest worlds, the physical world of form, the astral world, the mental world, and the spiritual realms. This would be, the sixth and seventh dimension. This would be the fifth dimension. This would be the fourth, and this would be the third dimension. Uh, you know, all actually are connected to the tree of life. Without them, existence wouldn't be here. And so, in other words, the third dimension can only be created if the fourth dimension came before it. And that can only be created if the fifth dimension. So it's literally top down. So what informs our world behind the scenes are all the higher dimensional worlds. But we densify, we slow our vibration, and so we slow our consciousness and our ability to truly remember who we are. So where did the tree of life first come from, and what the heck really is it? Okay, this is a big mystery. We're going to talk about what it is first, and then we're going to get into where it came from. So what do we know about the tree as a cosmic symbol? And this is a very beautiful image from a movie called The Fountain. And I'll show you a couple of other images from it later. But I don't know how many of you saw that movie. At the time I saw it, I really didn't understand it. It wasn't until years later when I really plunged into my understanding of the tree of life that I came to understand what this movie was really about. But it's a very powerful movie that takes place in 3 time periods. Our current modern time, where Hugh Jackman, who we love him, he's such a wonderful actor, is married to Rachel Weisz, and she's dying of cancer. And we love Rachel Weisz. She's marvelous. And then there's the same couple 500 years earlier, where Rachel Weisz is the queen of Spain, and she's sending Hugh Jackman as her conquistador to the New World, to find the tree of life. And of course, who's breathing down her neck is the patriarchy. It's the Catholic Church and the Inquisition, and a very difficult time for her. So she's counting on him. And then there's this time in the future where they are floating through space in a bubble with the tree of life, and it's a gigantic bubble, and he has been seeking her all of his life, and they are going towards what's called Zabalba, and in this case it's meant to sort of mean heart of creation. And so it's a really, really interesting movie once you understand the cosmology behind the tree of life. So the tree acts as a bridge between our world and the higher worlds. And of course, this image is the cross, but the cross, of course, was a symbol of the tree of life, which most of us don't know. I mean, if you ask most Christians why they're wearing a cross, they'll say, oh, it's because, Jesus was killed on a cross. That's their understanding. But actually, the cross predates Jesus by thousands of years. It was on the garments of the Rotno priest of ancient Egypt who were studying the heavens. It was sacred to Tammuz, the first shepherd king. It was actually made as a symbol on the forehead in the Greek mysteries long before Christianity. And so it's actually, connected to the Ankh as we've talked about. So the tree acts like a rainbow bridge that we can cross as a soul that connects us between the worlds. Isn't this just such a gorgeous image? So very beautiful. So we see this depicted beautifully in the Norse mythology. So here we have Yggdrasil. Now, why in the world they picked 9 planets or planes, I have no idea. But Asgard was said to be sort of the highest one. It's up here. And that's where, if you've been watching the wonderful Marvel movies with Thor, I love, Chris Hemsworth is what a gorgeous guy and a great sense of humor. He is, he comes from Asgard, as does Odin. And if you remember the Thor movies, they're first attacked by the frost giants. That's in the Nephilim down here, the land of ice and mist. The next time they're attacked by the dark elves. And the dark elves they're over here, Svartalfheim. They're said to be really good with technology. That's in the second Thor movie. And then they kind of went off, of course. But notice here, this is the realm of the light elves. That's interesting. interesting. This is a realm of intense fires. Okay, probably like a volcano world. Or say this is Jotunheim. This is the realm of the real giant. So you can sort of see. And here we are in the middle. We're Middle Earth. This is the Earth. Now notice that there's this serpent. Okay, and in the Norse cosmology or mythology, whatever we want to call it, they believe that there's this serpent that when he bites through the root and that supports all of this, uh, um, basically Armageddon will take place, and they call that Ragnarok. So it's like, hey, the end days. So again, here's a rainbow bridge connecting the worlds from the lowest to the highest, and of course they call that the Bifrost in the Thor movies. So as you can see, there have been many artists who have been depicting these images, I mean, throughout time. And some of these are very modern artists. Here are the people down here, and here are the different dimensions going up, including the sages and the avatars. And here's a golden path or golden road, this literally going very serpent-like up to the very top where the light is. Now, it was always thought that these trees represented a doorway, and that's actually an interesting thing I discovered when I was doing my research on one of my 4 books, the one on Jesus. I have a whole section on his time with the Druids and the Celts. Well, the Druids, the word Druid comes from the word drawer, D-A-U-R, which means doorway, and it's literally connected with the oak trees. And so they looked at these trees as being doorways into the other worlds. And we see again depictions. This is a Buddha one of him sitting beneath the tree, and it always acts almost like a portal or a doorway into the higher worlds. So the tree offers a path, a way, if you will. And so we see sometimes in these depictions, this spiral path, which of course, if you've ever walked the spiral, usually the proper spirals have 7 levels, like the 7 planes. And it said that the way we walk in is how we walk through life. When we get to the center is our relationship with God or ourself, and how we walk out is what we do with that relationship. And so the tree of life is often connected with this spiralic path. And of course, what do these spirals represent? The multidimensional planes of the universe, of God, which of course in our current culture, it's not really even acknowledged, except to say, oh, there's a heaven, there's a hell, and there's earth, and you have one life, and that's it, you die. No, we're eternal. We have many, many lives, and there are many mansions in my Father's house. As Jesus told us, there are many dimensions in the universe. I've always loved this. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this along the way, but you may not have understood exactly what it meant. Here is the initiate who holds the shepherd's staff. And he has pulled back the veils to peep beyond the 3rd dimension, to look into the 4th dimension and the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension, to understand how the cosmic wheel works, how it's connected with the great central sun. Here's the sun. Now, in his sphere, as well as in all the spheres, is the tree of life, which is a path back home. And we have the lunar energy, and we have the solar energy, and then we have the bright and shining stars. These are all symbols we're going to see in Hermetics as we look at the Freemason emblems. Some of their paintings are so beautiful, but again and again we're going to see the tree, often represented as a ladder to heaven, the sun and the moon, and then the bright and shining star, which is kind of like the star at the top of the Christmas tree, isn't it? It's us. It's what we're working to achieve is our godlike identity. So the ancients saw it very much as a path to the stars, and I thought it was really interesting when we look at the Milky Way, how the Egyptians depicted Nut, N-U-I-T, Nut. Some will say Nut, but I always say Nut. I love her. She's so wonderful, as the goddess of the heavens. And they portrayed her literally as her body is filled with stars, and her feet are in the east, and her head's in the west, or vice versa. But she literally is abode over Osiris. This is Osiris, who was the Christ of his day, thousands of years ago, the Lord of Light. So and this is Horus, or Ra, probably Ra, who was Osiris's father, the Lord of Light, blessing him. Now, this is actually a painting that I did, a drawing that I did. As you guys know, with my 4 books, I have about 100 illustrations in each one, because if I'm teaching Hermetics, I obviously have to show you images. And I've drawn a lot of those. And this is one that hasn't wound up in one of my books yet, but it really depicts the ocean of love and mercy here, the cosmic egg from which we all emerge. This would be called the world of emanation, beyond, the world of form. This is the worlds of creation, the 6th and 7th dimension. These are the worlds of formation, the 4th and 5th dimension, and these are the worlds of action, where all the 3rd dimensional planets are. So again, the roots in heaven. It's branches connecting all the worlds.
Hi there, everyone. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension, and I want to just take a moment here, just a quick minute after this video. Firstly, the video that you just saw is one of the many event productions that Portal to Ascension that I've created over the years, created hundreds of events, and now we have an archive that's kind of like Netflix for consciousness on our website. I'm just going to show you really quick how you can sign up right now and view and navigate hundreds of hours of presentations, many of them, most of them for free, and utilize the Portal to Ascension platform. So you go to the website, portaltoascension.org, you type in your name, email. Pretty soon we're relaunching a new website, so everything's going to look a little bit different, but pretty much the same thing. Go to the website, enter your name, email, click sign up. You'll then, within a few minutes, get an email sent to you that will have login information with a temporary password to log into the site. You then go to login, you enter your email address, the password given to you, and you click login. And this will take you directly into the back end of our website, where you can navigate all of the footage that's available to you. And you can see here, you can type and start searching for a speaker, topic, whatever you want, true world history, William Henry, you can type anything over there. You can browse by category: advanced technology, ancient civilizations, ascension, conference, conscious business, conspiracies, divine feminine, evolution of consciousness, extraterrestrial awareness, hot chakra, holistic healing, and so on and so on and so on. And then you can even browse by speaker here, and you can see on the right hand side it starts with Adam Apollo in alphabetical order, and you can browse by each speaker and look at their videos as well. And the way it works is we have it all split up here: my webinars, which is where we are right now, my watch list, so you can add things to your watch list, watch later, and then documentaries, where you can watch documentaries, and interviews that we've done. All the presentations are laid out in the grid over for you here. All you have to do to watch one is click on it, and there you go, it's right here. We also have suggested webinars for you, the description, the speaker info, the speaker bio page. So it's really become a one-stop shop for consciousness. So if you want to check out the full presentation of what you just saw, if you want to check out any other of these presentations, or just have this amazing resource for you that's a one-stop shop for all things consciousness, where not only do we have all this content and footage from the past, but we're constantly creating events and footage every single week. We do around 110 events a year at this point. 80% of them are online. So go ahead and sign up. Go to portaltoascension.org and take a look at all the amazing information that we have there for you.